Her secret penthouse? In my name? Have you ever opened a letter that made your stomach drop before you even reached the second line? Because that's what happened to me. An envelope with my name, but an address I'd never lived at. Inside was a past due notice for a penthouse I didn't own, with my signature on the contract. The same signature I only use on legal documents. That was the moment I realized something was horribly, dangerously wrong. Something my wife had been hiding for far longer than I ever imagined. And when you find out someone you love has been using your identity to build a secret life, cheating stops being the worst part of the story. I stared at that notice, trying to convince myself my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the number that hit me wasn't the address. It was the date. The contract was signed 6 months ago, the exact time my wife suddenly became too busy for everything. Late night work trips, weekend seminars, walking out of the room to answer calls, always turning her phone face down like every notification was classified. And then something I'd brushed off stabbed its way back into my memory. 2 weeks earlier, an Uber receipt showed up in our shared email. A drop-off nowhere near her office, but just a few blocks from the same luxury district in that letter. Back then, I told myself it meant nothing. But now, that tiny detail felt like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. Because tell me, how do you ignore a spouse who's always away, always secretive, and taking rides to neighborhoods you've never once been invited to? At this point, suspicion wasn't an emotion anymore. It was evidence. When that Uber receipt connected with the penthouse notice, something snapped. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I was done being blind. I opened our shared email and started digging. I didn't even know what I was searching for, but the truth has a bad habit of slipping out, and her truth slipped fast. Hotel confirmation codes I'd never seen, invoices labeled client dinners at restaurants she never once mentioned, a charge for a perfume she'd never worn, a bottle worth more than my weekly groceries. With every click, my stomach tightened. But the worst part? Every single charge traced back to the same neighborhood as that penthouse. Same district, same streets, same pattern. One by one, the pieces snapped together like a puzzle I never asked to solve. And the more I found, the clearer it became. My wife had an entire life I knew nothing about, but somehow I was the one funding it. At that point, there was no turning back. I needed answers, the kind she'd never willingly give. I told myself I'd stop digging, but you don't stop when every new clue feels like a slap you never saw coming. So I opened our joint bank account, the one we barely touched. And that's when my whole body went cold. Transfers, dozens of them, small enough to stay invisible, but steady enough to mean something, all sent to a name I didn't recognize. Before I could even swallow the shock, another pattern punched through the screen. Every transfer happened on nights she claimed she was working late, the same nights she came home exhausted, smelling like a perfume she didn't own, carrying boutique bags she called work samples. My hands were shaking as I copied the recipient's name into Google. And then my heart just stopped. His address was the exact address on that penthouse notice. I wasn't connecting dots anymore. The dots were attacking me, staring at a stranger's name tied to my money, my credit, and my wife's lies. I realized this wasn't just cheating. This was calculated. I wanted to confront her right then. But confronting a liar without proof? That's giving them the script to twist the whole story. So I stayed silent. I watched her pack for her next work trip, guarding that suitcase like it held state secrets. She kissed me goodbye, quick, distracted, and the second the door clicked shut, my fingers slipped on the car keys. My body knew before my mind did, whatever I was about to find wasn't small. The drive felt like I was underwater, heartbeat louder than the engine. And when I pulled up to that building, all glass, valet waiting, the kind of place where people stash their second lives, something inside me went cold. I scanned the entrance, half expecting the worst. Her name, with someone else's, right on the mailbox. I didn't know what I would find inside, but I knew one thing for sure. Once I stepped through those doors, my marriage wasn't coming back with me. The lobby smelled like money, polished marble, soft lighting, the kind of silence that makes you feel like an intruder the second you enter. I expected questions, paperwork, something. But when I gave the concierge the penthouse number, he just smiled and said, "You're already on the list." My stomach dropped so hard I almost lost my balance. The elevator climbed forever. Each ding felt like a countdown to something I wasn't prepared for. And when the doors finally slid open at the top floor, I saw it immediately. The penthouse door wasn't locked. It wasn't even fully closed, just hanging there, like someone rushed out, or like they were certain no one else would ever come home. My fingers shook as I nudged it open. The first thing I saw wasn't a person. It was a pair of heels on the floor. Her heels. The same ones she claimed she lost at a work event. The lie hit first. Then came the second punch. A man's jacket casually thrown across the couch. Like this was his place too. And right then I realized, this wasn't a room. This was a parallel life she'd been living behind my back. And I had just stepped into the one secret she never meant for me to see. I stepped farther inside, every nerve screaming for me to turn back. But it didn't matter. I was already in the life she'd been hiding. The lights were low, the air thick with her perfume, mixed with a man's cologne I had never smelled before. On the counter sat 2 coffee mugs, still warm, one with her lipstick, the other a black mug with a corporate logo I didn't recognize. I was about to call out when I heard it. Voices, soft, close, hidden. I froze, my own heartbeat sounded louder than their words, until one sentence cut through everything. "He still has no idea. You said you'd handle it." Handle what? Me? My credit? My entire identity? I followed the sound down the hallway, moving like any noise might destroy what little truth I had left. As I reached the end, I saw shadows on the wall. 2 figures standing close, leaning in, whispering like co-conspirators. My hand hovered at the doorway, shaking so hard I could hear my pulse in my ears. And in that moment, something inside me shattered. This wasn't a slip-up. This wasn't a secret fling. This was organized. A plan. And the worst part? I was the only one who didn't know it existed. I don't even remember deciding to move. Something inside me just snapped. One second I was frozen in the hallway. The next I was shoving the bedroom door open so hard it ricocheted off the wall. And there they were. My wife, wrapped in a silk robe I'd never seen in my life. And him, shirtless, standing like he belonged there. The same man from the transfers. Their faces drained of color instantly. She whispered my name, reaching for an excuse she hadn't prepared. But my eyes had already locked onto something else. A document folder on the bed. The same type used for legal contracts. I grabbed it before either of them moved. And inside, my entire world collapsed. Page after page with my forged signature. Financial transfers under my ID. A loan agreement tying me to the penthouse debt. And a clause that would ruin me if anything went wrong. She touched my arm, voice trembling. "It's not what you think." But I was done being lied to. He stepped forward, trying to stand tall, but his voice cracked. "This was supposed to be temporary. You weren't meant to get involved." Temporary. My credit, my marriage, my identity. In that moment, everything inside me broke. This wasn't cheating for love. It wasn't cheating for lust. It was cheating for advantage, for convenience, for using me. I wasn't the husband. I was the cover story. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even look angry. And that terrified them more than any explosion ever could. Because instead of losing control, I went silent. And silence is the one thing cheaters can't survive. I tucked the folder of forged documents under my arm and said quietly, "I hope you two enjoyed your little paradise, because it's about to burn." Their expressions shifted instantly, not to guilt, but to raw fear. The kind of fear people feel when the person they thought was weak suddenly holds the power to end them. My wife grabbed my arm, voice cracking. "Please, wait. We can fix this." But all I saw was the woman who used my name, my credit, my life, to build a future with someone else. I walked out of that penthouse without looking back, because I didn't need to. I had everything I needed. Evidence that wasn't just proof of cheating, but proof of crimes. Identity fraud, forgery, financial manipulation, charges that could destroy their job, their home, their freedom. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt a strange, cold kind of relief because the game wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine, and they had no idea what I was about to do next. The next morning, I walked into the bank with the calmest face I've worn in months. Not because I wasn't shattered, but because once the truth finally hits you, revenge becomes a kind of numbness, a focus. I handed the fraud department the folder filled with forged signatures, fake transfers, and documents linking my identity to debts I never touched. The investigator flipped through the pages, slowed down, and then her eyes snapped up to mine. "Sir, this isn't just fraud. This is a criminal case." Perfect. By noon, the penthouse accounts were frozen. By evening, the financial investigation was officially underway. And by the next morning, her partner, the man she risked everything for, had all his business accounts flagged and locked. Money flow, gone. Access, gone. His confidence game empire, collapsing. But the real twist didn't hit until 2 days later. She showed up at my doorstep, mascara streaked, shaking, breathless. Not because she missed me, but because she finally realized the man she ruined our marriage for had vanished. Phone off, penthouse emptied, digital trail scrubbed. He didn't just run away, he erased himself. And the most painful irony, he used her, just like she tried to use me. But karma wasn't done, because the police didn't come looking for him first. They came for her. Every forged signature, every illegal document, every fake transfer was executed under her login, her device, her fingerprints. When they placed her in the back of the patrol car, she screamed my name like I was the only lifeline left, begging, blaming, bargaining, acting like I owed her a rescue. But I just stood there, steady, silent, letting karma finish the job I didn't need to dirty my hands with. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply letting a liar drown in their own lies. And as the police car turned the corner, taking her with it, something inside me finally loosened. For the first time in months, I felt freedom.